With the mission to keep as many men on as many guns for as long as possible, we called him Doc. Welcome to Combat Vet Vision. And now your host, Aaron Chief Siebert.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Hey, this is Aaron Siebert, retired Navy Chief, lucky to be alive after being hit with a mortar round April 2006. Hey, this is Combat Vet Vision. A lot of times I come on here, I talk about why it's important for me to kind of tell my side of things, my story, my this, my that. But what the reason why that is because we may have the same story as far as combat. We may have the same kind of story down the road somewhere, somehow, but each of our experiences and how those experiences affect us are different. So the points of view become different. And so often right now we got misguided news or news that's considered fake or this and that. I think with agendas the way that they are, I think it's real easy to steer that. And you look back in time and you look back at all these different things. How society and may have um, almost misused the Bible, God, religion to skew thoughts or processes, or misused other governments or their issues. And so when you look at some of these things, I start to understand why it's important to kind of look at everything and form your own thoughts and opinions about things, because so often, um, you know, certain things can be looked at in a certain way, and we maybe unintentionally judge or assume that your thoughts might be the same as mine, or align yourself with, hey man, how do you feel about this? Don't you think that this is like that? And maybe you start steering somebody down a road that they maybe didn't want to go. And there's people sitting in jail right now because they took those paths, or they were misled somehow, some way. And there's people that have died, and there's people that have been in positions where bad things have happened because they followed something that they really didn't believe in, but they went down that trail anyway. So the reason why I want to kind of talk about this is because, you know, when I'm on here by myself, it's just all about my thoughts. It's all about my things, my dealings, the way I kind of focus on life. But there's so many cool stories out there, so many other combat vets, so many sponsor supporters, volunteers, and really people in general that need support and help. And when when I talk about these things, those thoughts are mine. These are about my struggles, my triumphs, my direction, my failures, my success. And other people have these as well. That's why I'm so interested about, hey, if you look at my show, I always ask about, hey, how was your transition out of the military? How did that go? Because everybody's really kind of scared about leaving the military after certain long periods of time, how to come back into the civilian life, because it's such a different lifestyle, such a different culture, it's such a different government, um, set of standards, set of ways of dealing with things, especially if you went to combat. And because combat, there is no other place for it when you come back to society. It doesn't blend in, it doesn't cross over, it only crosses over if there's more combat involved, or strategically, you're working on some projects that kind of blend with society, but very few and far between those lines exist. um, so when I have a guest on, it's not necessarily about me, but it's about them, and it's about their story. It's about their visions, their likes, their whatever they're doing in life is very interesting. And there's a lot of people that have very interesting things that are going on, whether it's the hard times, the great times, whatever those are, they're interesting. Why? Because they're sharing something that, I think we as combat vets, when we come together, we do it pretty well by sharing open thoughts, which means a lot of the thoughts that are talked about are thoughts that you might have as an individual, but you never share with somebody. Sometimes when we sit around and we have these moments where we're just hanging out together, whether it's out, with Warrior Built doing, the races, or PTSD Foundation doing the warrior groups and coming together as a legitimate group. These kind of things kind of find their way through, and you get to a comfortable position with somebody, your battle buddies, and I talk a lot about that, and we start talking about them. Or you come on here and you have this one-on-one kind of conversation with me and that other individual, and we talk about things that are tough. We talk about things that are struggling. We talk about things that are crazy. Talk about things that, when I say crazy, it's like it's the other side of the coin of life, is living on the verge of life and death, or it's struggling through the combat side of things. Like I said, does not blend into society. So that burden, all those features, they kind of stay with us for a long time. They kind of deal with us. Anyway, and I want to say, when you're dealing with trauma, a lot of that is carried over. And there's this big trauma bundle in your head all the time that you're just milling and carrying and struggling with and working with and trying to figure out where and how to manage it the best way possible. And some people manage it by isolating and not not coming out of their hole, or they become so and I use this word a lot, jaded, which kind of means, a stubborn, frustrated, anger management of, hey, I'm so misplaced that I can't even come out in society, so I'm just going to stay here and be a grumpy individual for the rest of my life. Or you're going to start abusing things and then causing all kinds of other problems. But you figured out how to live your life, but you're kind of a hermit. And I think these things kind of can be struggles for a lot of people. And I'm not just combat vets, but people in general, as they struggle through depression, anxiety, all these disorders, all these things. And maybe it's not a disorder, but it's just the fact of life. Um, that's another thing. People get caught up in, what it should be called, what it should be this, what it should be that. And my biggest thing is, what you should be caught up in is what you're doing about it. And I think when I talk about this episode that I'm talking about right now, it's your life, it's your story. Everybody seems to know and want to know the who's, the what's, the whys, the wins, but who discusses the buts, the ifs, the that's, the thises, these things, those things? Um, that's where some of these things got to come out. And one of the things is, it's important for me, to not be, from the beginning of this whole thing for me, going through combat, doing all these things. I just seen so many Vietnam movies, so many different movies that kind of reflected this whole problem of alcohol, drugs, abuse, and just falling apart in your life. And I said, hey, this is not the route I want to go, no matter how many things I deal with in situation. I do not want to be the guy at the end of the bar, the druggie, the this, the that. I do not want to be that guy. I said, hey, I want to be the guy that's kind of engaged in his life no matter what. I didn't know what that would entail, and I didn't know it would take me to this Combat Vet Vision podcast, or talking about such great organizations that really have helped so many people out. And there's tons of them out there. Obviously I talk about a few on here that super important: Warrior Built and the PTSD Foundation, Operation Silver Star. So there's a huge amount of them, but there's a lot of them that I've been involved in directly. There's some that have kind of shut their doors, shut down a little bit, but still reflect on some cool things. You got D-Day today, as I reflect back on that a little bit, the unity for, to basically liberate the craziness that happened in World War II, to fight for liberty, and to make that a possibility. And I I looked a little bit at the news today, as Russia had their parade a little bit, and to listen to what Putin's idealism of his reflection on what he thinks, or he wants his side of the story to look like. And when you look at that, and you look at the side of the story of the UN and all the things that are going, there's two separate stories, and there's two separate kind of thoughts. Um, but I think it's imperative to know that freedom is not free. And there's a lot of people that have lived in freedom for a long time, and to feel like some tyranny is going to come through there and liberate that freedom in some way, and it doesn't it doesn't work for my mind, because my mind has always been like, hey, America's a free country. It's so free that there are plenty of people in there that represent so many different things, and from good to bad, and we have these choices. We have these choices to make great choices. We have these choices to make not so great choices. If I want to be an alcoholic, I can. But what does that entail? Well, that entails that I live off society and the government for the rest of my life. And, I'm not going to care too much about work. The police are going to be called. The fire department's going to be called, possibly. Um, a lot of different people will be called. I'll create a lot of maybe drama for society, a lot of problems for society, and someone's going to have to take care of me. It's kind of the same. I mean, I guess being in the military, being retired, but I did 20 years of service. I gave that full on deal, but part of me feels a little bit guilty about that. Why? Because I think when we in the military, we serve, we're men of service, women of service. We serve society in some way. We serve our country. We serve this whole thing, this idealism uh, of what that is. And when we get out, um, we're like, hey, I'm still pulling money. I'm still drawing a paycheck from being retired. Granted, I was hit with a mortar round. I went to Iraq 3 times. I fought the enemy, and I did it with pride, and I loved it. I loved being part of a team that was doing what it needed to do for the country. But I came back injured. I came back destroyed. I came back wondering how I'm going to move, and I still have a hard time moving. I still have a hard time with life. I still have these struggles in life, but I don't want to be a victim. I want to be part of the solution, not the problems. And that's just the standard. That's the standard that I set for myself, and that's the direction that I want to go. I think I'm not here to judge or assume anybody else is supposed to have these same experiences or these same idealisms, but I want to believe that I make a difference with somebody somehow, somewhere, and I think we all do, with whatever you're doing during the day, whether you're driving a truck, dropping off packages, or this, and that. Um, but at the end of the day, when you hear this side of the news so far different than this side of the news, especially with what's going on in Ukraine, um, Russia would like to think that they're winning. Ukraine is on their own sovereign territory, kicking the Russians off of it. Um, and obviously, Russia didn't do anything that they said they were going to be able to do, and they denied that they were going to attack, and they attacked anyway. So there's a lot of things when you look at it, you're like, the propaganda machine is definitely running everywhere. So in all the news that I listen to now, I have to hold back some direct like comments um, or something that I'm just going to say off the chain, off the cuff, like as if I know what's really going on. And I don't think any of us do. We only know what's going on in our vision, in what we can see in front of us and what we can taste, feel. Even I've talked about it as like, as much as everybody wants to believe in UFOs, the any video can make it look so real uh, that you don't know if it's real or fake anymore. I mean, everything's so real, everything's so fake, everything's so blended. But for me, it's very important for me to stay open minded, even though the stubbornness of how we see and perceive things. Uh, I want to be able to adjust my thoughts in order to grow. What I mean by that is like there's a lot of people that I talk to where I just want to listen to them. I want to reflect a little bit. I want to get that look into whatever they're doing, and maybe some things that they're not doing so good, and I want to be able to kind of see if maybe I can make some adjustments here or there. And I can learn something from a child to an adult, and it's always been said, but do you really put that into action, or do you really kind of believe in it, or find value in it? Um, and I do, and I want to. So if you're on my show, in which I invite many combat vets, many sponsors, supporters, volunteers, I'd love to have them. I'd love to have you on my show, uh, to tell your perspective, to give your life experience and those idealisms that you're living up to, or not, or the struggles that you're struggling with because they're real. Um, the rawness of what it is super important, um, because we only have one life. We get to hang out for a while. We get to do something, and then it's gone. And you never know when that's going to be. There's so many people dying on the battlefield to dying at home. I lost a couple buddies this week, and um, yeah, I keep seeing like a lot of losses starting to pack and pile up. It's obviously we're getting older and doing some things, and some guys have really gone through a lot, and to lose some really good, a really good Marine this week, and a really awesome Navy SEAL that I found out passed away too, buddy of mine, from COVID. Haven't talked to him for a while, reached out, but they got the brief that he was no longer with us. And um, so I spend a lot of my days and nights talking to combat vets. I spend a lot of my time also helping vets in general, because they call, because they need, in society, sometimes somebody comes across my number and they call and they ask those questions. They just want to be involved with something. And I don't have all the answers, but I'm here. I'm here for a certain amount of people. I try to keep myself at a pace where I'm available. Um, it's real easy to overcommit ourselves to so many things in life that you only have like 30 seconds for this or that, and we do. I mean, and sometimes it kicks off. Some days I don't have that time. Um, Mondays are my busy days with obviously this, couple meetings with the PTSD Foundation, other things, doing a whole bunch of cool things. Um, Mission Alliance is another one. I kind of forget to kind of reflect. Luckily, Mission Alliance has hit me up with, asking if I could put together some guys to go to be part of this study on how COVID affected us veterans with PTSD. So I get to kind of put together some groups on that and reflect on some things. So there's really some awesome opportunities out there that I get to take part in, and I like to kind of reflect on those as I go through my Combat Vet Visions podcast and stories. And as our combat vets or whoever comes on my show, their stories are amazing. Their situations are amazing. Their thoughts are amazing. However they view it, that's kind of how they view it. Um, Even if it wasn't exactly that way, I can't tell you exactly what happened to me when I got blown up. I can't tell you exactly how that went down. I can only tell you from my perspective and the way I remember it. So it's it's one of those things. But yeah, I just wanted to give you guys some perspective on that. It's your life, it's your story, it's my life, it's my story. Um, so when you're on my show, it's yours. It's basically your show, and I am fortunate enough to have some amazing guests, some amazing people that have reflected that. But hey, I'll let you go for this week. Hey, this is Aaron Siebert. Lucky to be alive after being hit with a mortar round. Till next time, strength and honor. Out.